All right. Hey, Brad, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
Good, good. It has been a wild day, Brad. We started this morning just before 8 Eastern, and we're still going strong and with our events. In fact, you are capping off an ocean triple header right now.
Yeah, well, I'm very much looking forward to it. It's great to be part of it, and yeah, I'm excited to have a chat and really great to listen to some of the great speakers last night as well.
All right, excellent. Well, we've got Brad Norman joining us. He's a marine biologist, National Geographic Explorer, and Rolex laureate. He set up an amazing monitoring program through his not-for-profit EcoOcean. As each whale shark has distinctive markings, we'll probably talk a little bit about that today. He devised a way using some pretty cool technology, usually used for looking at the night sky, to be able to tell them apart quickly. So divers all around the world can upload their pictures. It helps the scientists understand their ways and where they are, and identify thousands and thousands of individual whale sharks across over 50 countries. Absolutely amazing, Brad. uh, the largest fish in the ocean. I'm so jealous you get to spend so much time in their presence. It must just be, does it get old? I don't think it ever gets old, does it?
It doesn't ever get old, and I'm very privileged to be able to be a part of working on such a beautiful creature and hopefully helping with its long-term conservation. Because although they're beautiful, although they're big, they're certainly in trouble. But I think we've got the opportunity to turn that around in our lifetime.
All right. Well, Brad, I'm going to let you take over from
Okay.
Australia, from the West Coast. And we're really excited to learn a little bit more about what you're doing.
No worries, mate. Well, thanks very much. I'll just get myself organized here and then we'll go from there. Hopefully it'll work. You can you see me yet?
I think it's just, I can see the screen. I think, there we go. Nice and full screen. Yeah.
Okay. No worries. Okay, well, I'll start. Thanks again. So hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Brad Norman from Murdoch University and EcoOcean. I'm lucky enough to work on one of the most enigmatic and charismatic species in our oceans, the whale shark. I just wanted to say thanks for coming along to this lecture. There's been some wonderful speakers already. I'm very excited to share with you a little bit about the whale shark, a species I'm passionate about. I've been working and I've been working on for more than 25 years, specifically for its conservation, because this is an endangered species. I hope to show you all how this beautiful big fish can inspire in us all the need to care for the oceans we are all reliant on to maintain a healthy planet. So a little bit about the whale shark. Well, it's definitely a shark with gills and cartilage skeleton, but it's so named because it's as big as a whale. It's about to set sail. It's very slow growing. Recent research indicates they can live for 100 years. They're widely distributed throughout the world's oceans, generally preferring warmer waters. This red band around the globe is where we find this beautiful fish, which is great for me because it's warm water, and that's where I prefer to be doing my research. But they're quite broadly distributed around the world. They are the biggest fish in the sea. You can see a diver alongside this one in the top screen. Well, they can actually reach lengths of up to 20 meters. That's over 60 foot. It's about the size of a bus. But they're actually tiny when they're born, as you can see from that bottom right image. This one was one of the very few newborns that was ever seen. It was actually less than 2 feet. It was thankfully released back in the wild, and yeah, hopefully it's survived through. But you can see they're a beautiful little creature, and they're covered in lines and spots even at that when they're born, which I'll go to in a minute. And thanks for mentioning, Joe, about the photo ID program and how we've developed some pretty amazing monitoring program. I'll go into that in a minute. I definitely acknowledge my colleagues, Jason Holmberg and Zarvan Al-Zamanian, who were the brilliant scientists behind some of the work that we were doing to set that up. But we'll go into that in a minute. Just wanted to say a little bit more about the actual animals themselves. As I said, they're the biggest biggest fish in the sea, and they're all around the world, as you saw in that previous slide. But it wasn't until 1828 that this species was first described to science. And up until the mid-1980s, there was only 320, only that many sightings of whale sharks throughout the world, official sightings. So they're quite cryptic. But this is amazing, given that the history or the background of whale sharks, they evolved somewhere between 65 and 35 million years ago. They've been around for a long time in our oceans. But as you can imagine, to get to this size, this 60 foot that they can reach, they need to eat a lot. They have a massive mouth. You can see here, it can be over 5 foot wide, but a really small gullet. So there's no chance of you getting swallowed. Can't say the same for these fish that are swimming along in the mouth of this big fella, but yeah, they need to eat a lot. They do have teeth. They've got lots of them. They've got thousands of teeth, in fact. But these are tiny. They're very small, and they're actually not used for feeding. They're under a vellum of skin in the mouth, and they're a bit of we think, an evolutionary overhang. Instead, they filter feed. They take in huge volumes of water through their mouth, through that huge, big, potentially 5 or 6 feet diameter mouth. And they filter it along through their gill plates, and the water goes back out through their gills. They sieve out some of the smallest organisms, zooplankton, as small as 2 millimeters. Beautiful little creatures. They're fun to look and see under a microscope. But to make this feeding strategy energetically worthwhile, whale sharks must seek out high concentrations of prey. They often feed at dawn and dusk, and that's sort of when zooplankton concentrates at the surface. This makes it worthwhile for the animals to sort of hoover up a big concentration at the same time. On rare occasions, we can see them in action feeding during the day on krill balls, as you can see in this video. This was filmed at Ningaloo Reef in Western Australia. It's here at the Ningaloo Reef that I began studying these beautiful creatures, yet little understood sharks more than 25 years ago. And you can see the power of these animals has. Even though they're gentle giants, they can certainly move through the water, and sometimes at great speed to ensure they get their food. And this guy here is just going crazy at the surface. Pretty happy he's found a krill ball. And that's some of the food in the water that you can see that they concentrate on. So just a little bit about the Ningaloo Reef. Well, this is the place where whale sharks and thousands of eco-tourists visit every year. You can see in the top left corner a bit of an example of, or a map of where we're talking. Australia, big continent. The little red square in the top northwest corner, that's where Ningaloo Reef is. And the whale sharks are actually just on the dark blue side of the reef. It's quite close to the shore. Ningaloo is a healthy fringing reef surrounded by pristine and productive waters. It's quite close, as I said, only a couple of kilometers off the coast. Unlike the Great Barrier Reefs, like the Great Barrier Reef, which might be 30 kilometers off. You can actually walk off the beach and see beautiful corals and teeming with underwater life. And this is Stumpy. He was the first shark I ever swam with and photographed. He's been returning to Ningaloo for more than 2 decades, and I still get a buzz every time I see him. I see him every now and again. He's recognizable because he has a distinctive damage to his tail. You can see that's a bit unusual. But as you can see, he, as well as all whale sharks, have an amazing pattern of lines and spots on their skin. Is this a fingerprint? With no 2 whale sharks are the same. We weren't sure. So my research set out to prove that the spot pattern on the skin of each shark was unique to that individual, and that it didn't change over time. And by photographing the sharks, we could use this as a way to, 1, monitor their numbers at Ningaloo. We could also determine how often we get new recruits and see whether the same whale sharks are returning to that location. With this information also, we can sort of get an idea on how the whale shark population is going at Ningaloo and hopefully spread that out to the rest of the world. So the area behind the gills of a whale shark was the area we chose. It's easily photographed while swimming alongside. And it has clear reference points to effectively mark an area for comparison between the sharks. Once the methodology was proven, we could build a monitoring program. But then we needed to collect more data than was possible from one lonely researcher, myself. Identification photographs and sighting information on all whale sharks in an area and over an extended period of time was needed. But because tourists were swimming with whale sharks at Ningaloo, why not enlist their support? So enter the citizen scientist. Now, when it was just me doing the research in the beginning, I was the one taking photos of each shark I swam with and just comparing these by eye. That was workable when the number of photos was manageable, just the ones I collected. But as soon as I asked the public to help, they were eager to get on board. And soon there was a lot of photos to analyze, a lot of work. So I was fortunate to team up with two brilliant scientists, software guru Jason Holmberg and NASA astrophysicist Zarvan Azamanian. And with the use of spot pattern recognition algorithm to compare whale shark identification images, a user-friendly online database, and a great team effort, this project developed into the largest monitoring program for a wild shark in the world. I was fortunate, and one of the things that happened from that was that we developed this huge online monitoring database. Originally, it was known as the EcoOcean Whale Shark Photo ID Library, but this project morphed into Wild Book for Whale Sharks, and it's coordinated by WildMe. This citizen science project gets bigger every year. It's online. Anyone can contribute, giving rise to thousands of research assistants from around the world. And to date, more than 11,000 sharks have been identified from more than 50 countries. So citizen science really does work. It not only provides great data for scientists, but has the added benefit of raising people's awareness, involving them in conservation monitoring, and encouraging greater care for our environment. And you can go to whaleshark.org if you've got any photos of whale sharks from anywhere in the world. Now, while the Photo ID project is great for understanding numbers, we needed more information on important habitats for whale sharks throughout their range and life cycle, so we can protect these areas. We needed to find out more about their movement patterns, so we came up with a simple, low-impact tagging methodology that works. Satellite tags were clamped onto the whale shark's first dorsal fin. These would send location messages to an overhead satellite to determine where in the world the tag or the shark is at any given time. This would involve placing an electronic tag on the biggest fish in the sea, though. No easy feat. But we succeeded, and we were lucky enough to make it work. One thing that we had to get over, though, or to ensure that it was going to work, was the fact that satellite transmissions from a tag can only move through air and not water. So this technology works well for land animals and some marine species that need to come to the surface to breathe, like whales, dolphins, turtles. But sharks usually stay underwater, so the tag would not be able to transmit its position to the overhead satellite. Importantly, though, we observed that when whale sharks are actively feeding, like this fella, their dorsal fin is out of the water for some period of time. This would enable enough positions over time to track whale shark movements, and so we hit the go button. We were confident that we could make it work. We developed a very successful collaborative project with the West Australian Department of Education to combine conservation research and STEM, science, technology, engineering and maths, learning for kids. Schools were able to sponsor the satellite tags that we deployed on sharks at Ningaloo. And Ningaloo's just in the middle of that map. It's the most northwestern point of WA, Western Australia. So what we did, we put these tags on, and students we're able to follow their shark in the race. We call it the race against the world, around the world, against the sharks sponsored by other schools. And you can see each of these tracks is one of the whale sharks tracks, and it's got the name of the school over the top of it. Some of the animals traveled thousands of kilometers and crossing international boundaries, and even going as far north as Indonesia, but often, as you saw, returning back to Ningaloo, which was exciting for us to find. The satellite tracking program helped us break new ground on the movement patterns of whale sharks, to find out where they go when we can't follow them. And it engaged the inquiring minds of students in a STEM project that included learning related to oceanography, biology, ecology, electronics, weather, chemistry, and more. And the head of education in Western Australia has gone on record as saying this is one of the very best external education programs that they had ever been involved with. So we felt that it was very successful for both students and for the sharks. So what we thought was really positive about this, and so important, that these kids, whether they're from kindergarten right through to high school kids, they could be the next, and they will be the next generation of ocean protectors. So we hope to engage them as best we can. Okay. So we need to know what's important to a species in order to understand how we can preserve and protect it. So we looked to innovate further to find out more about these enigmatic species. We're using, on the left here, an old image of on-animal video cameras, where we initially used National Geographic Criticam, and now we're using smaller paralens cameras that can go down to great depths. We use high-tech data logging tags, and the middle image is myself and Rory Wilson on a boat that was provided by ex-Chicago Bulls star Luke Longley, is a colleague, and helped us out with our research, which was imperative in the early days. And we use drones to study this species too, and that's certainly the new way of studying many species in the world. The on-animal cameras were great, and still are. They help us see what's going on around a whale shark, what they're seeing, and what's down at the depths that we can't actually see. We've used both forward and reverse-facing cameras, and we are getting in. One of the other things we're trying to get is an understanding of how tourism might be also affecting the behaviour of animals, and we want to learn more about it and minimise any concerns anybody might have. I'll just go into I work with on a really amazing new technology. It's with Professor Rory Wilson from Swansea, who invented the Daily Diary. It's a black box of animal behaviour, helping us understand the intimate lives of whale sharks beyond our view. What I'll do is just show a little bit about what the Daily Diaries can produce. It's great because they can talk about how often they dive, how fast they swim, how often they feed, etc. And on this graph, this is a bit of an example of some data that we collected. This is from a whale shark, just over 4 hours. It gives us information on the temperature of the environment that the shark's swimming through, how fast they're swimming through acceleration activity, the depth and how deep they're diving. This is at the surface, and they go right down to hundreds of meters, straight down and come straight back up. It's been their time at the surface, possibly feeding, which we'll talk about in a second. The geomagnetism is sort of the which way they're traveling, and also their orientation of their body while they're moving underwater, and the energy that's required, what they're doing when they're just swimming, when they're feeding. And a lot of the time it seems to be at the surface. They have to kick a lot of energy, but sometimes they feed at the surface, as I said. And so this is where this energy graph will go up. So there's a lot of information that we're getting from these new tags, and the project's ongoing, but we're finding some exciting stuff. Aerial surveillance, specifically drones. We learned of a whale shark, this is last year, of a whale shark trapped in the lagoon of an atoll in the Pacific, unable to move to the open ocean. We were able to visit the atoll, conduct some basic research to start with, and come up with a strategy to free this shark as soon as as soon as it's safe post-COVID. But this beautiful creature is surviving in the middle of this atoll, can't get out, but it's still okay. So we're looking forward to going back there, hopefully early next year. And another thing is we continue to discover weird and wonderful facts along the way. Studying whale sharks feeding at night in the Maldives, I was amazed to witness all these suckerfish swimming around the head of a whale shark as it was positioned vertical in the water column, suction feeding on zooplankton. These suckerfish were hitching a ride, not to feed on the scraps of the whale shark that some researchers or some people believe, but they were feeding on the same prey as their whale shark host. They were actually feeding on the plankton that the big fish was feeding on. It was pretty amazing. Discovered a new species of ectoparasite living on the shark's skin. It's got a scientific name, Pandarus rhynchodonticus. You can just see him here at the very nose of the very front of the whale shark. Excuse me. And we named it the scientific name similar to a whale shark or part of a whale shark. The whale shark is Rhynchodon typus, but this little creature, it's only about 1 centimetre in length. We called him Pandarus rhynchodonticus. Bit of a mouthful, but pretty cute little animal. Okay. I just wanted to sort of bring it back a little bit. I've been privileged to work as a marine biologist for over 25 years. Seeing the wonder of our oceans, it's clear to see how everything is connected. The biggest fish is so dependent on the smallest organisms. Healthy reefs need healthy oceans, and we have a role to play, humans and nature. So community stewardship by us all is so important for maintaining the health of our environment. We need to take care, and seeing this type of thing this type of footage, these type of animals when you go out and swim in the ocean, I mean, it's pretty amazing. It's certainly changed my life, and I've been doing it for 25 years now. Dolphins, who doesn't love a dolphin? But it would be impossible not to feel empathy and awe when you see a baby minke whale wanting to play. I encourage everyone to enjoy the sea and all that it offers. And if you do get a chance to go swimming with a gentle giant, a whale shark, I'm sure it will inspire you to do more to protect our oceans and all the amazing creatures that it supports. Because despite being around for tens of millions of years, whale sharks remain extremely vulnerable. This species is currently listed as endangered, which means they're dangerously close to extinction. And this is all on our watch. So we must be vigilant and to protect and maintain a healthy ocean habitat for all species. And not just this beautiful animal, the biggest fish in the sea, for a perpetual planet. And thanks to the magnificent whale sharks for taking me on this exciting journey. And thanks to all you for being part of the Global Biodiversity Festival. It's a fantastic initiative. Thank you.
All right, Brad, thank you for that incredible presentation. There were two things that really stuck with me. The first, I mean, there were a lot of things, but two things that really kind of grabbed my attention were the young whale shark, the baby whale shark. It's, I mean, so incredible to think that they start so small before they grow so large. And then, your work with school kids. It's so important. Most scientists, explorers, adventurers, conservationists, they can all remember a time they met someone, saw a documentary, read a book, and it just flipped a switch for them, and it led them to the path, that they ended up on. So rich experiences like you gave those kids are amazing. What they need.
Yeah, they love it. And as I said in the presentation, these kids are a future. Obviously, it's so cliched, but they have such an inquiring mind, and to be able to feed that with some beautiful pictures, beautiful knowledge about our biodiversity, our oceans, it's only got to encourage greater interest. As I said, I'm so fortunate to work on such a beautiful animal. And I like to think of whale sharks as a bit of a flagship for ocean, well, for shark conservation, but for ocean health as well. I mean, these guys can be a bit of a canary in a coal mine also. I mean, they're so dependent on healthy oceans. And as I mentioned, they feed on some of the smallest organisms. So if that goes, the sharks are going to go. And whale sharks, and that's just a cascade of badness. So we need to keep an eye on and monitor these whale sharks, and involving the public is one of the ways we can monitor and see what's happening out in our seas. But by engaging members of the public, whether they be kids, whether they be tourists, whether they be general public, to give people a sense of ownership, a sense of involvement, it really can encourage greater stewardship in our oceans, in our planet, full stop. And I just think that if we can all pull together, we can do our part. There is opportunity to make a difference. As Enrique said, we need to protect areas. 30% of the ocean by 2030. Well, it sounds a big number, but it's not. It can be done. Anything can be done if we build a drive, a group of or a focused way of doing business, and by letting people see how wonderful our oceans are, that's going to instill and encourage greater interest and greater want to play our part.
Absolutely. Very well said, Brad. I'm going to get you to hit that stop screen share at the top so we get you nice and front and center for a couple questions before we wrap up today.
Gotcha. Let me see if I can do that. Why are you not letting me do it? Oh, hang on. Give me a second.
Okay.
Technology.
That is okay. I've been, for broadcasting for 13 hours today. We'll hit 13 hours. We've surprisingly run into not as many glitches as I was expecting. Things have so far gone so not too badly.
Well, that's great. I didn't realize I was the last cab off the rank. So hopefully there's still people watching.
Oh, no. We've still got a few more events. When it wraps up, will be 13 hours.
Oh my gosh. Well, congratulations, Joe. I mean, it's a fantastic initiative that you and your team have put together. And as I said, I'm just really glad that I can be part of it.
Yes, I'm a lucky guy with an incredible team. And that's what made this happen.
That's great.
So pretty lucky guy.
Let's keep doing it. Let's do it again.
Absolutely.
Get this one out the way first, though.
Yeah. A little ways to go on this one. Okay, first question we got from Slido. How long does it take for a whale shark to mature and reach full size? Or are they like some species where while they're alive, they're going to keep growing?
Yeah, it's a great question. There's a lot we don't know about these beautiful big fish. And some of it is their basic biology, to know how often they breed and how fast they grow. And we don't even know where they mate or where they have their young. So that's a $64,000 question that hopefully I'll be able to answer at some point. But as far as growth goes, when they're born, they're 50. Just say they're on average 50 centimeters in length, but they can get it to 20 meters. But as I mentioned, they're slow growing. But I think because they're so small when they're born, in order to get to a size that will give them some protection, they have to grow really fast at a very young age. So those first couple of years, they probably go from 1.5 foot to 6 foot, 6, 7, 8 foot in the first few years. But then they taper off and they start to grow very slowly. So it's not known for sure, but maybe a 6-7 meter shark would be 20, 30 years old, but they can grow up to 100 years. So they sort of go up pretty quick and then they taper off. We're hoping to find a lot more about them, but big thing is finding out where they're breeding, and then we can do a bit more study on that one. But great question.
All right, awesome. I'm gonna grab one more from the Slido room before we wrap up for today. So Ed's wondering about, coral spawning events, fish spawning events. Do you ever follow the food to find the whale sharks?
Well, that's an interesting point. What we're doing is finding that the whale sharks actually, they follow the food. And so like at Ningaloo Reef, it's a very productive time of the year when whale sharks are there, which is sort of around a mass coral spawn in sort of March, April each year. But that's when there's a lot of whale sharks there, but they're there for the whole, for many months after that. And in fact, we've done some satellite and acoustic tracking to show that there is at least some whale sharks each month of the year in this part of the world. So they sort of they do search far and wide for hotspots for productive areas. And yes, we found that. I mean, there's a few places along the West Australian coast where there's whale sharks. It sort of ties in with times when there's fish spawning or crayfish spawning or coral spawning. So there's a few little places where we can sort of predict they might be, but there's places that they're turning up each year that we actually try to go and research. And there's a lot of researchers around the world that are doing whale shark work now. I've done a lot. I've been to many places in the world to conduct my research, but there's some fantastic researchers that do their own thing, like people in Mozambique or people in the Philippines or people in the Seychelles, etc. So there's a great community of researchers that are also really committed to trying to understand more about this endangered species and help with their long-term conservation.
All right. Well, Brad, a huge thank you for joining us today, sharing the story of the whale shark, sharing the work that you're doing, and just that message again that our biodiversity, especially in our oceans, is so crucial to our survival, to the health of the ocean, to the health of the planet. Really great to have you joining us live from Australia today.
No worries. Thanks again, Joe. It's a fantastic opportunity, and congratulations and good luck for the rest of the weekend. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Brad. We'll let you get on with your day, and I'm going to